I'm a former IRS agent and teaching instructor. Welcome to my YouTube station. It's the home of the 5-minute or less video. I've been worked at IRS for a decade. I've been in private practice for 4 decades. I've been doing this 50 years. Most people have actually seen me on national news, many national news stations, and thank you for coming to my YouTube station. As a result, you can see all my major news interviews on my website, but more importantly, looking at my staff of many former IRS agents, CPAs, and tax attorneys. I do these videos for 3 reasons. So A, you don't get ripped off, especially in the offer and compromise world. Also, you get insider information from about the IRS. And then lastly, I educate you. Some people are looking to make a decision, and some people just want to hear information, and other people want to do it themselves. Either one is good. So what I want to do is tell you about why your return got audited, and then the process of the IRS examination. So first of all, how did you get audited? I'm going to go in general terms because I try to keep these videos at no more than 5 minutes. The IRS scans your return, and there's a bunch of algorithms that IRS uses, and they come up with a DIF score. It's called a discriminatory index function score to pull your tax return up for audit. And then when they do, they go ahead then and send these batches of returns that they think are worthy, and they send them down to a field office where you'll have a bunch of revenue agents examine these cases to find out if they're actually audit worthy, and then those cases go back up to the service center, and then the service center sends them down back to the local office, and at the local office the manager will go ahead and distribute those cases to whoever. In the meantime, you're going to have a letter sent out, and on that letter you're going to see some of the reasons. The IRS doesn't say, well, this is what the computer found. The things that IRS asked for in that letter are the things that the computer found. So the examiner will go ahead and look at that tax return, and the initial information that you submit to IRS isn't going to end the audit. The auditor at that point has complete control of your case. Depending if they're new, they're old, they want to get into more information, they can do whatever they want with that return. If they see there's more problems, they're going to dive into that. If they didn't like this, they're going to dive into that. And the auditor actually can go ahead and expand the audit for 3 years. Generally, if you get like a professional firm to represent you like ours, we usually can keep and minimize your audit to 1 year most of the time. So anyway, at the IRS examiner will go ahead and finish the audit, in which you will say no, yes, and then they issue a report at that time. When you're issued that report, you're either going to agree, and if you do agree, the case goes back to the service center, and they will set up the billing on that account. You'll get your first bill, which is going to be a CP14 that says you owe this amount of money. And by the time all the collection billing is finished, it's probably going to go out somewhere about 5 months. So you'll have 5 months or so to go ahead and make a decision what you want to do. If in fact you don't like the way the audit goes, IRS will send you this same letter, and you have an appeals right that you have to answer within 30 days. If you want to appeal, and you do appeal, you will get a notice from the independent office of the appeals, where this is a person who's connected with IRS's but it's more independent. That person will look at the information that was supplied to them by the auditor, and they will try to go ahead and settle the case. Generally, they want to settle the case, because if you don't settle the case here, the case gets docketed and it goes to tax court. So if you can reach an agreement with the appeals officer, then they bundle the case up, send it to the service center, and then the service center goes ahead and sets up the billing. If you don't agree with that appeals person, the case does go to tax court and your case is going to be docketed. You can then file a tax court petition pro se, and if you do that, you will have your day in tax court. Now, generally, tax court doesn't want 1,000 million cases going to them, so they'll usually kick the case back down to another auditor to review. And if you don't like that, you are going to wind up in tax court. Yes, you will represent yourself or you will hire someone. You don't want to go to tax court without having good information, because the judge is going to look at you and just shake their head. So be really careful about going to tax court. We have people on our staff that do all of this. We have people that actually graded returns for audit. We have someone who worked in appeals and a tax court liaison. Anyway, that's the whole process of the IRS audit. This process generally takes about 4 or 5 months depending on the auditor, but you don't want to keep moving forward really unless you have the records. If the auditor's a jerk and he's not allowing certain things that you know, boom, you want to go ahead and you want to hold that person to a higher standard and make sure you get the settlement you want as long as it's reasonable. Thank you for listening. If this was good enough for you, please give me a subscription. We thrive on those because YouTube says subscriptions are important. Thank you so much for listening.